up, America, or I guess wherever you're watching from, and welcome to the latest edition of the OH.Report video podcast, now merged with the Friday Night Pigskin for double the fun and twice the thrills. My name is Brian Skoronsky. I'm the host, and you see I'm dressed up again this week. That's right. It's another Victory Monday for my Brownies, baby. All these Steelers fans that I'm surrounded by, they'll find out tonight if they get one next week. But let's go ahead and meet everybody who's going to be talking on today's show and break down for you what we saw from this past weekend in playoff football as well as the other sports, volleyball and soccer. Speaking over here with these two cuties, how about Hayden Gray and G-Man Garrett Parlett, our new dynamic duo with Storm out sick this week.
Ouch.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing great.
Not bad. We're not sick. Prayers up the Storm. If you're watching the Storm, prayers up.
So we're all praying for a Blunchley return here soon, and I'm sure same thing for Travis Berardi, big league over here. What's up?
Thank you, Browns, for putting the Steelers in second place with a win tonight. So thank you, Browns, for doing that. The one time I will ever root for you guys. So good job.
Glad that we could do our part with a nice win, and that did feel nice. Oh, man, did it ever. We're going to talk about the Browns a little bit later, but first, let's meet our special guest, the star of the Friday Night Pigskin and former regional championship coach on the football field, also the voice of WMAN Sports. Eric Will, what's up, buddy?
Hey, it's great to be here. And you know what? The Browns are not doing anything to help the Steelers. And Storm, we wish you the best, buddy. Get yourself well soon.
All right, let's go ahead and dive right into the highlights. There were a lot of them. We covered a bunch of pigskin this past week, and we're going to begin with Mansfield Senior and Parma Padua. Hayden, you're going to break this one down for us. So tell us about the Tigers. This seemed like this was kind of a defensive game on both sides.
Shoot, yeah, you got that right. It was truly a defensive battle at Arlen Field Friday night. You know, starting off the scoring for the evening was a senior-high 32-yard field goal from Sean Putt, so not even a touchdown. And that made it 3-0 Tigers, but we're going to go ahead and get those highlights started with just 4 seconds left in the first half, so go ahead and roll into those. We're going to have the defensive touchdowns as Malachi Mays sheds defenders and takes it the distance, putting Senior up 10-0 going into the half. After that, it would be all Padua as number 4 Marquise Hall scored from 3 yards out to make things 10-7 at the start of the fourth, and again from 37 yards out, he's going to find the end zone again, and that's going to do the scoring for this game. Truly defensive. And, you know, we talked about it before the show. Not sure what to expect from the Mansfield Senior offense, but they just weren't able to get things going, not able to move the ball well. And Padua Franciscan just simply outplayed them. They caused turnovers that needed to happen, and Mansfield Senior's going to take an early exit, Brian.
Eric, you're a guy who watched a lot of Tigers this season. The offense had been clicking. In your opinion, what happened to them where they just could not find any consistency? Drives weren't being able to be continued. They got off the field a bunch on third downs.
Yeah, because defensively we know that that's been their calling card. That's traveled no matter where they've been. And so for Franciscan to be able to run the ball as well as they did, and you could see by the highlights they had a lot of success running the football. It really starts and stops with Brock Hill. They're going to go as he goes. I thought he had a tremendous senior year. He definitely played his best football down the stretch. And he just ran into a young, exciting, kind of up-and-coming Franciscan Padua team that I think is going to be good. You're going to hear from them again next year, but you're also going to hear from Mansfield next year. This is something that could develop into a little bit of a postseason rivalry because they've played off and on here over the last few years. The other thing, too, is you look at Bradley, how well he played at the receiver position. So you have to understand that the defense is going to be gearing to probably bracket him somehow, some way to try to take him out of the game as much as possible. So then it turns into all you other guys, who's going to make a play and who's going to be able to help them get the ball moving and get the ball into the end zone. And they were unable to do that on Friday night. So, when you have a 10-0 lead on your opponent like Mansfield did without an offensive touchdown, the most impressive thing is the Franciscan Paduan offense, because for them to be able to score on Mansfield's defense is impressive, because I know how good that defense is. But I think also if you were to talk to Coach Bradley and that offensive staff, I'm sure they're extremely disappointed that the offense was unable to reach the end zone.
And I saw that the number 1 seed Norton actually got upset by Holy Name, so there was a shakeup there in the bracket. How do you think, Hayden, that the Tigers are going to remember this season, given that happened? I mean, it was all open for them to make a run potentially into the state Final Four, and all they needed to do was get a little bit of offense, and they couldn't.
Yeah, it's difficult, and that's one of the tough things the loss already hurts, but then finding out that they would have had maybe a favorable match next week.
Double blow.
It's never easy to do, so hopefully they don't hang their heads too much on the what ifs and what could have beens. Hopefully they're able to, collect themselves, take a few days, but then get right back to work. As you said, they had a successful season. Things were going their way. They were starting to get really hot during the end of the year, finding themselves. Their offensive line was really starting to click. So I don't think that this season is a total loss to them. Obviously not where they wanted to end up, especially with the play of Brock Hill really escalating towards the end of the season as well. But it was tough the first half, with that 10-0 lead. It's not super comfortable, but it looked like it was going their way despite offensive struggles. So I think this is going to be a tough one for them to swallow, but they have a stellar coaching staff over there, players that are dedicated, so I think they'll get right back to work very shortly.
Yeah, Coach Bradley will have them guys in the gym, probably right now. They're probably lifting weights and watching this and just, getting eager for the season to roll around the 2022 style. First time, actually, they ever lost a playoff game at Arlen Field. A little bit surprised. I think all of us kind of collectively were that the Tigers were not able to do more. All right, Shelby versus Clyde for the third consecutive year in the postseason. This one would be an instant classic. Travis, you watched this with me with our own eyes. Dude, this was one heck of a football game.
And at first, it didn't even seem like that. At half, it was only 14-14. I know Eric and the WMAN guys were on the call as well, expecting this to be a shootout. But, boy, it really changed in that second half. It was a shootout, came down the last couple plays of regulation, goes into overtime, and just an exciting matchup for the third time, the rubber match, if you would, the last 3 years between these two. So let's just hit the highlights. Start in the second half, game tied at 14, but we're tied no more. Michael Daniels powers in from 7 yards out. It's 21-14, but the Whippets answer back. 4th and goal, Marshall Shepard rolling out to the right, finds Blaine Bowman wide open to tie things up. Next possession, and we're tied no longer. Jaden Cook finds an open Andrew Cobble. It's 28-21 Flyers. Move to the 4th now. Whippets 4th and goal again. Shepard going to the corner, and Bowman gets the feet in. We are tied at 28. Move ahead to the 4th. Time running out. Shelby with a chance. Shepard, he's going to go deep. He has a man open and right through the hands. No. We're going to go to overtime. First play of overtime. Shepard heaves it to the end zone, and Andre Hill fights off his defender. Shelby leads. But 3 plays later, Cook and company, they would have an answer. He finds Griffin Knopfs, who sneaks away from the secondary into the end zone. We go to double OT. Flyers now with their first possession. Daniels gets a little help from his friends, pushes him all the way into the end zone. Pressure now onto the Whippets side. First play, Shepard fakes the screen, goes deep into double coverage, and it's picked off. Clyde survives 42-35 in double OT. They'll take on Van Wert in a regional semifinal.
All right, appreciate that, Travis. Man, what an awesome game that really was. And, Coach, since you know a thing or two about Shelby football, Marshall Shepard balled out, Blaine Bowman too, a legendary performance by both of them. What is their legacy, you think, within that program?
Yeah, I think you got to throw Andre Hill in that mix too. I mean, you're talking about 2 receivers over 1,500 yards. Marshall Shepard, I believe, finished well over 4,600 yards. I think he accounted for over 60 touchdowns,
yeah, he was good.
65 touchdowns. I said this after the game on our post game, and I believe this. I'll stand by it. This wasn't a reactionary thing or like an emotional statement. I think Marshall Shepard's on the Mount Rushmore of Shelby football. The last 2 years, first off, he's a 3-time undisputed conference champion.
True.
Going to the regional quarterfinal, regional final, or semifinals, finals, regional quarterfinals this year.
Yes.
He's a 3-time conference champion. He's shattered. I think he's got every passing record in Richland County. I don't think this is even a Shelby thing. This is the entire county and area. He's got 2 receivers that were 70, 75 catches in that ballpark, well over 1,500 yards. His numbers speak for themselves. He's been unbelievable. And then, getting down to Blaine Bowman, he's just unbelievably smooth along with Andre Hill. Those 2 guys, I love, like we were talking about before we even went on, I love the graphic, the 2-headed monster, because it's almost like you can't mention one without the other. It's like when I was growing up as a kid, you always said Langhorne and Webster Slaughter. You always had to mention the 2 guys, Rice and Taylor. That's the kind of connection that these guys had. It was a great season. Conference champions, went right down to the wire, lost in overtime. I thought I actually would say that going into the game, I had my concerns and they actually answered those. I thought they balled out. I thought they actually deserved to win the game. I thought they actually outplayed them for 3 of the 4 quarters. Maybe not the totality of stopping the run game on defense, things like that, which I know we're going to talk about later. But I thought that they were right there to win it, and what do we say? Talent equated games, Brian, comes down to 3 to 5 plays, and Clyde made those 3 to 5 plays.
They made the plays that they needed to when they needed them most, Coach. So moving on, they're going to have to play the defending state champions in Van Wert. You feel like they got what it takes to get it done?
You know what? Why not? Last 2 state champions have come out of that region,
That's
Region
right.
14. So Clyde won it in 19. Van Wert won it last year. I think it's going to be a great game. If you have a free, if you're free on Friday night, because it looks like all of our area teams are out, that might be one you're going to want to check out, because I think that'd be a great game to watch those 2 teams play. And obviously, Michael Daniels had an incredible night behind that offensive line, rushing for over 260 yards, 267 yards, I believe, and 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, the big dog ate. I mean, he ran the ball really, really well behind that O-line.
So those were our games on Friday night that we covered. Let's flip the script over to Saturday now, and let's begin with D6 Region 22, a slugfest. Cary taking on Tenora. Let's just go ahead and roll the film, show you how this one played out. And this was one of those where Cary, boy, they've been playing such great defense, and here they are on a goal line situation in the second quarter, and Isaac Carmen breaks a scoreless tie, 1-yard touchdown run, Blue Devils on the board first. It's still 7-zip Blue Devils, fourth quarter now already, and Tenora stands tall with a goal line stand here, but on the very ensuing drive, Rams take over, and All-Ohioan Bryce Conti gets the pick, and he's going to coast 11 yards back in for the score. This made it 14-0 in favor of Cary. Last chance coming up here for the Rams to get back in it. It's going to be a 4th down play. They got to go deep, of course. They need points on the board. But the Cary defense just so lights out all season long. It's incomplete, overthrown, and that is going to lead to this. It's going to be Cary's single-season rushing touchdown king, Jordan Vallejo, and they said it on the commentary. I love it. Parks the Winnebago in the end zone for 6. Big shout-out to Nick Ryder for the call on that one. Blue Devils advance 20-0 over Tenora. Cary, baby, just keeps on winning. Coach, how impressed are you just by the domination of the Blue Devils?
Yeah, they're unbelievable. Their offense is what it is. They're big. They're going to run the ball. They have a huge offensive line.
Huge.
I know we're going to break down a little bit of the Crestview Cary game coming up, but their defense is what's been impressive. I think we were saying before we even went on, you're talking about the last 7 games, I think they've given up 14 points. Their defense is lights out. It's as good as you're going to get. If you're going to beat them, I think you're going to have to do it through the air, not to abandon the run game, but I think their front seven's extremely stout. I think we have the makings of one of the best games in the state on Saturday night, and I know it's going to be on the OH.Report. This is going to be a big one, man. It's going to be a big one. But Cary, here's the thing. Cary's won the N10 the last couple years. They're really, really good. I did talk to Coach Halbert, and he's like, listen, They've earned it the last 2 years. They've been really, really good, and to beat them, you have to match the physicality. You can't go around them. You got to go through them, and very few people have been able to do that.
Well, you already talked about it. I like the segue that you already put out there, and I'll just go ahead and grab it and run with it. Cary going to move on to play the winner of the Colonel Crawford versus Crestview game, which, G-Man, you were a part of that one. And the Cougars, baby, they feasted again. How'd they get it done against the Eagles?
Yeah, Crestview got it done Saturday night, beating Colonel Crawford 28-14. Let's roll the highlights and see how they got it done. They did it both through the air and through the ground, of course. Starting off on the first drive from the scrimmage, Caden Cunningham is going to get the fumble recovery back to the end zone for a touchdown. He would have 2 of these, not for a touchdown. He would have a second fumble recovery for that Cougars defense. But, mama, there goes that man. Connor Moore, 66-yard touchdown run here all the way into the back of the zone, and nobody's going to catch him. He's been doing it all year long. He had 24 carries, 167 yards, and a score in this one. And Crestview would open up the passing game. Not sure how Hayden Kuhn fits this one in here. Right in the bucket, drops it over top of the defender. That's going to be a 21-0 lead for Crestview, but Colonel Crawford wouldn't go down without a fight. Lincoln Mollenkoff is going to get in the end zone. That's 7 for the Eagles, but Crestview will put the dagger in the Eagles right here. Wade Bolin, the fullback, giving him some love, getting him in the end zone, 28-7. Colonel Crawford will put this one back the end zone. Lincoln Mollenkoff, of course, but it wouldn't be enough as Crestview will, Brian, travel up to Marion Harding and play Cary.
So Connor Morris had another MVP performance. He's been doing it all year, like you alluded to. Is that the key to their success, or do you feel like the recipe is more just Hayden Kuhn being able to win off of the play action because Connor runs so well?
Well, as Eric mentioned earlier, Cary's very big up front. They're one of the bigger teams in the area up front. I mean, they got 300-pound guys up there, grown men. So I think they're going to have to beat them over the top. I don't think they're going to be able to run up and down on the field. But Colonel Crawford had some big guys too, and Connor Morris, man, they really lit up that back end. So I think Cressy's going to establish a run game, maybe do a little bit of play action off of that, and get it to those speedy athletes like Gabe Smedley and Addison Raymer.
Colonel Crawford, too, one of the highest scoring offenses in the state in Division 6. And Crestview holds them to 14. Matter of fact, one of the touchdowns coming in garbage time. How did the Cougars do it collectively, shut down an offense that's been running all over people? I think they're averaging like 250, something like that, yards per game rushing.
Well, I think they knew that Lincoln Monkoff was going to get his. It was really about stopping everybody else. They limited the passing game, and when they went over the top, they were deflecting balls. Caden Cunningham had a huge play before half that really stopped them from scoring. If that would have fit in there, it would have been 21-14 going into the half. But they got it done, stopping everybody else but Lincoln Monkoff. He got his 2 touchdowns, but everybody else, it wasn't enough as Crestview picked up a big win, and they'll play Cary for a little bit of revenge maybe. I was at that game. Cary smoked them last year. Crestview could not hang with them, so maybe Crestview can get it done this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that matchup coming up in the show here in just a minute. But, G-Man, we'll stick with you, man. Let's talk about the Cubs. Lucas Cubs, a number 1 seed in D7 Region 25. They played like it again at home. Malvern came into their place, and they found out it's not easy to win at Bob Wine.
I mean, we're constantly talking about Lucas, man. They're so good. They're constantly. It's like a business trip. Every time they walk on the field, there's no fun and there's no games. It's just constant. Run the score up, go home, and we'll look forward to next week. But let's roll the highlights. See how they got it done. They hosted Malvern on Saturday night. The Cubs rolling in. They would score on every possession here, Brian. This is going to be the first one. Andrew Fennell is going to take it from 6 yards out, and that moving company up front, man, they just dominate at the point of attack, allowing him just to walk in freely, dodge off that bullet right there, but Cubs, Zane Finley, this has been the MVP for them this season. Carving the way up front for them and then getting those nitty-gritty yards into the back of the end zone. Noah Langston here is going to get the 4-yard touchdown for the Cubs. This will be 21-zip. Basically, run rule is in effect here, 21-0. One of the best kickers in the area, though. We're going to get this. It would have been a 50-yard field goal. Got a flag, though. 45-yard kick right there. Kickers
are people too.
Shout out to
Kickers
Travis
are people
Berardi
too.
for that one.
Yes.
Grant Barrett is going to get in for a 4-yard touchdown. They didn't have a lot of splash plays, but they got it done in the red zone. And Grayson Jackson will finish it off with a 4-yard score, putting the dagger in favor of Malvern, 37-0. They will travel to Triway and face number 4 Dalton on Saturday night, Brian.
5 different Cubs scored in the game. Do you think that this game was sort of just like collectively put people on notice? They got talent way beyond just the 2 backs that they normally run.
And I think their biggest talent is up front. I think that's why they can spread it out so far, along with their backs and their skill positions. The guys up front, they wear you down. You cannot sit there for 4 quarters and just get driven back and driven back and driven back. And finally, you just quit. We lost. It's over. When you're getting drove back, your morale, you don't even want to go to the sideline anymore because coach is going to be harping on you. It's just done. So I think the Cubs, the biggest piece of their offense is their offensive line, and then those skill positions back there. They get them on the outside, too. Very speedy and athletic position. So we'll see, man. With the Cubs, I like them this week.
They didn't even attempt a pass, Coach Will. What other team can just line up and say, you know what, we are just going to run it down your throat, and you can't stop it?
Lucas, man.
That's
it.
What
they do. Coach Spittler and the boys, that's what they do. And it's funny because I think people thought, a little concerned, right? Mapleton actually had a lead in the second half.
Right.
Little concerned. I think Coach Spittler challenged him. I think they went into halftime, and number one, they came out, and you really saw a physicality that you didn't see in the first half of the Mapleton game, and then you saw that carry over into this game. Malvern's a really good team, and Lucas picked them up and rocked them to sleep. Let's call it what it is. They did. They rocked them to sleep, and like you said, 5 different guys score, and I agree with Garrett. You look at their offensive line. Their offensive line just moves bodies because they understand leverage, using their hips, their hands, their feet, all working in unison. And Zane is a dude. Yeah. He's essentially a lot like Cary's big guy at the fullback position. It's almost like a glorified guard, either blocking or carrying the ball. In many programs, those guys would be on the offensive line, but because they're at Lucas and Cary, they get to have a little fun. It's almost like they're an extension of the offensive line, so they get to have a little fun carrying the ball. Lucas has a huge game this week against Dalton at Triway, but I expect to see more of this. If you're going to beat Lucas, I used to think that you could throw the ball on their defense. I feel like their defense has been just rock solid front to back this entire year because I watched Winford tried to throw. It wasn't happening.
Sure.
I mean, they were intercepting balls. I watched them play the Division II Lakewood or whatever that was. It wasn't happening. Lucas just said, nope, you came down here and we're going to send you home with an L, and it doesn't matter about the size of the school. So I just like the whole mindset that they have there. Once again, playing in a really tough region. You got JFK in there. You got St. Paul. So, but you expect that this time of year, Brian, right? There's only 16 teams left. Everybody's going to be good. If you don't bring your best game, you can go home or stay home.
Yeah, we'll break down the Cubs versus the Bulldogs coming up here in just a bit. Let's now go from Division 7 to Division 6 and another hard running team in the Northmore Golden Knights who, on our broadcast, we were pressing that touchdown button a lot. It just, unfortunately, for the Golden Knights, it wasn't for them. It was West Jefferson who had to run and play. K-Mac Trav, break it down for us. What happened to your guys on the road?
Well, first I said, please don't make me look like a fool last Monday, and it looked pretty bad just because this West Jefferson squad, really good, really balanced on offense, and they did what they needed to do is shut down the running attack from Northmore. And let's go to the highlights, and I will show you exactly what happened. West Jefferson did what a top seed should do come playoff time. That's put the pedal to the metal. Ooh. Hayden Saylor starts things off with a 5-yard run. Then Brian, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The 1,000-yard rusher runs it in from 7 away. But wait, there's more from him. He will go in again from 5 yards out. It is 21-0 after the first quarter. First 3 possessions they had, all scores. Head to the second quarter. Spencer George is going to join in on the party. He is in from 3 yards away. It's 28-0. And then, they have a 3,000-yard passer. Why not use him as well? Tyler Buscher takes to the air, finds MJ Book from 8 yards out. West Jefferson rolls the Golden Knights 63-13. Yikes.
Yeah, they fell behind immediately, obviously, if they're scoring on their first 3 possessions like that. What do you think happened to the Golden Knight defense? We saw them at times during this year. They were really good.
I just think it was a perfect storm to where West Jefferson had the perfect game plan. Like I said, they have a 3,500-yard passer in Buscher. They have a 1,200-yard rusher in Saylor. They were able to combine that balance, just pick Northmore apart. And then defensively, they were able to shut down Max Lauer under 100 yards rushing. They kept Cortez in the pocket. He did have 139 yards. I said he needed to have a good passing night to succeed for Northmore, but they just couldn't get the run game going. So West Jefferson did exactly what they needed to do. They're a 3 seed for a reason. They had a really good defense. They've scored over 100 points in their 2 playoff games. So this is one of those teams, they have a chance of making a run here the rest of the way.
And our producer says this game was over in the first quarter.
Yeah.
It was never close. And
we were looking at updates on the way back from the volleyball match that I was calling, and 5 minutes in, it's already done. I'm like, this is not good for the Golden Knights. They're not a team that can come back, especially with that slow run game, kind of like Lucas. They'll just take time off the clock. They'll do a couple pass plays here, but going down 21-0 after 1, it was game over.
Hayden, we'll give you the final thoughts. We spent some time together over at the Castle, and we watched Northmore play some really quality football, I think. So 9 wins for them on the season. Their 3 losses, though, coming in the last 4 weeks, including 2 chances to win a K-Mac title, and they weren't able to come through. What do you think they'll remember this season for? Will it be like happy memories, or will it be like what we could have accomplished?
I would love to say happy memories, but I think a lot of it will be what could they have accomplished, because the season started off so strong.
8-0.
They were looking for the first 10-0 season. And Travis, was that in school history?
Yes.
Yep.
In school history, they were looking for their first K-Mac championship in a long time. And things just kind of imploded. Some outside things where injuries are affecting players, but and it's not a discredit to them. I think they just became discoverable. Teams knew what they were going to do. Maxon Lauer, that's a credit to the player he is. But they knew that offense was going to come. They want to run the ball 30, 35 times. And if you can shut down their run game and make Cortez pass, then that was a bit of a crutch for them or a weakness. So I think it's not necessarily anything they could have controlled other than the fact that they didn't change up their offensive attack much. And ultimately that led to where they were at. And, they played a really, really good West Jefferson team. So I think they should still be proud of what they accomplished this year, but a lot of it's going to be a little bit of reminiscing.
All right, guys, we saved the best for last, at least on Saturday night. The game of the night for our small schools. We had Royalty in Gloucester Trimble making their 11th straight trip to the second round of the postseason, but they had to go on the road to Howard, Ohio, where typically the Bulldogs will feast.
Chet Looney
Let's show you
Stadium.
how it played out. And there are the Bulldogs, East Knox, making their grand entrance onto that Chet Looney Stadium. But it would be Trimble's Bryce Downs who would enter the end zone first. And this dude was unstoppable in the first half. It was the best first half performance I maybe have seen all season, maybe in all the seasons that I've been covering high school football. 68 yards on the opening drive after they stopped the Dogs on a big fourth down. So you're like, oh boy, here it comes. Second drive now for the Tomcats, and guess what? Downs back at it again. 26 yards this time as he cuts all the way back against the grain. Nobody can catch him. It would be 14-0. He lowers his shoulder there into the quarterback, Lester, and still able to find his way into the zone. Second quarter now, Dogs finally get on the board. Peyton Lester, moonshot. Blake Bonham catches the falling star. It's 14-7. Dogs trailing Trimble, but not for long, because they still got that man over on their sideline. That's right, here's Downs again. He's going to find a crease, and ain't nobody going to catch him. 65 yards. I cannot believe how much faster he was than everybody else on the field. This put the Tomcats back on top, 21-14, but then Peyton Lester would start to take over the game. Climbs the pocket, and he's going to hook up with Shane Knepp, his favorite target on this night, and that would happen a lot coming up. Well, let's show this next play, but first, how about Downs making his fourth house call of the first half? The dude was over 250 yards and 4 tutties, all in a quarter and a half, really. But then the Dogs would start to find their way back into the game. Just sit back and enjoy the Lester to Knepp show. That's 29 yards there. That was key. That was in the second quarter to make it 28-21 at the half. Now Knepp on the slant gets Ghost to pull the Dogs within a point. They would miss the PAT midway through the third, and you were like, oh my gosh, it's going to cost them because we're already down. Seconds left in the fourth quarter. It's still the same score, and how about this catch? That throw, double team, 35 yards with 38 seconds to go. Knepp's 4 TD grab of the night, and the Dogs would go on to win. Whoa, you want to talk about some drama and some guts to throw that ball up there? Whew, that was some good stuff down there in Howard. Coach, what'd you think about the Bulldogs and how they were able to survive a big onslaught? I mean, it was getting poured right on top of their head early in the game, and they held on. You know, they stood that first couple of attacks, and they got the dub.
Well, and that's what you talk to your kids about, is weathering the storm. So you have to appreciate the record-breaking first half, I'm sure, that the running back had from Trimble, to come back and be able to respond to that. And then obviously you were seeing the passing game. Anytime you can throw the ball, you're never out of a game because you can score quickly. And I'll tell you what I noticed right away is how about the receivers knowing how to high point a ball? Like, that's the key, man. I'm telling you, go up and get it. Don't let it come down. And I'll tell you what, the QB knowing how to throw a deep ball. Listen, that takes a lot of time at practice. You don't just walk out and just start throwing the ball deep. There's a precision and an accuracy and a scheme design that goes into unleashing that type of attack. And, you know, I'll tell you what, I'm just impressed with the defensive adjustments that they made, because if they were even able to come close to slowing the running back down like wasn't done in the first half, that probably allowed for a comeback. Because remember, it's got to be twofold. The defense has to slow them down a little bit.
Pitch the shutout in the second half.
And that's the difference in the game. So obviously you got to give the coaching staff and the players credit for coming out and executing. Obviously they made their tweaks to be able to slow down old number 20 right there. But, hey, they're moving on, man. They're in the Sweet 16, and it's never been sweeter down there in Howard, baby.
And, G-Man, you were a part of their ride a couple of years ago when they went all the way to the state Final Four, and you saw some awesome performances. How about what we saw from Peyton Lester? He throws a pick early in the game. The Trimble cashes in for a score right away on Town's second of 4 touchdowns. And then after that, he goes 22 of 24, 395, and 5 touchdowns. It's just a special place down there in Howard.
That's what you call resiliency, right there. You know, bouncing back after the interception and going pretty much perfect from there on out. And that town, the small town camaraderie, it's just like Lucas, man. When you get on a run, it's like nobody can beat you. It's a Cinderella story, the perfect story. And East Knox, man, they've been riding that way for years now. They had a few won a couple years back, and this year, man, they might be able to do it again.
Well, Lester was certainly impressive, no doubt about it, for the Dogs, but Did he have the best individual performance of the weekend? We'll let everybody weigh in on this. We'll begin with you, Hayden. Who stood out to you that you thought really, really played well?
Well, I would love to give a huge shout out to Peyton Lester because that is a phenomenal stat line, especially in the situation that he was put into. That's real leadership and resiliency, as G said. Another person I'm going to talk about, though, is actually a quarterback who was actually on the losing side, and I'm going to talk about Marshall Shepard just because I think he still needs talked about a little bit on the show this year because if we haven't talked about him
much, have we?
Yeah. I'm going to hand him out the Hayden Phenom Award just because he marches number 7 Shelby into number 2 Clyde hostile territory. A lot of doubts going into the game. I think Coach made a great point. Obviously, through 3 quarters, honestly, I think they played well enough to win this game. Unfortunately, the drop pass, that hurts. That could have won them the ball game. But his stats, 31 of 55, 346 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. And when I went back and watched the game, he was doing just such a great job of, Storms talked about it this year. Some questionable decision-making earlier on in the year. I think he grew a lot, matured a lot as a quarterback, didn't force things as much as he was earlier in the season. So I think that his throws were on the money all night, good enough to get them a win. It didn't happen, but I just think that he needed one more bit of credibility on the show before we moved on. But Peyton Lester did have a phenomenal quarterback night as well.
Just something about sitting in that chair, just the Marshall Shepard fanfare. Like, I don't know, it just comes up through the floor.
Up for Storm.
Yeah.
Coach, you want to elaborate on what you saw from Marshall? I mean, I seen it too, and some of his deep throws, not very many high school kids have the guts, number 1, to throw them, but then number 2 can put them in there with the precision, the accuracy, and he's got nice touch.
Right, and you think about a team like Lucas, and we talk about how they didn't throw a pass. Well, you look at a team like Shelby, and they don't run very often a lot of times. So, it sets up that way, but you got to be able to go out and execute and do it. And obviously, like I said, he's extremely special. And then you're talking about a guy, Isaiah Ramsey, who's a sophomore, 6'3", great athlete, basketball player. I know we're going to be covering him here through basketball season as well. He's only going to continue to grow. But you talk about those 2 seniors, Andre Hill and Blaine Bowman, with him. It just there was a perfect storm for special in Shelby with the pass game this year, and it all came together, and they executed it really, really well. We can all say this: they didn't lose this game on Friday because of a lack of pass game or execution within the pass game. Because anytime you throw the ball 50 times, think about it. There's quarterbacks who are like, they have a 50-to-1, ratio of attempts to interceptions. You know what I mean? He threw 50 in one game. You have an interception. It's going to happen. So, I feel like when you look at his stats, they're almost. I mean, he's an All-Ohio quarterback. When that stuff's released, if he's not a first-team All-Ohio quarterback, there probably needs to be an investigation.
Yeah, I'm sure Storm will look really deep into that one if he's not believed that. All right, so that's what impressed Hayden and Coach here. Travis, who was the standout of the weekend to you?
My big league performance goes to Connor Morse from the Crestview Cougars. 24 carries, $167, a touchdown run, which was of 66 yards. Just the big playmaker for Crestview. Opens up the balance for Kuhn and company to throw it, and that's what Crawford was doing pretty much all night, was trying to catch up, and it was thanks to Connor Morse in his continual just dominance of the area. He finished 3rd in rushing against a Lincoln Mollenkopf from Colonel Crawford, was the top rusher in the area. Crestview was able to keep him somewhat contained, but contained enough to allow Morse and company on the offensive side to take care of business and get that rematch with Carey. But Connor Morse, my big league performer.
I like it. Is there a trophy for that or any type of
possibly
extra?
We'll see.
Look into that. Yeah, Connor, he's just, I always call him the little engine that always can, because it just seems like even though he's slight in stature, that dude's always falling forward. He looks for contact. He runs hard right into defensive backfields. It doesn't matter to him what's in front of him. Connor Morris always comes in with the head of steam, and boy, once he puts that foot in the ground and he makes that cut, dude's pretty elusive, man. He's got some quality speed, so I like your pick for the first ever Big League Award. Who's next? All right, I guess I'll go next. And while I was really impressed with what I saw from Peyton Lester, he filled it up. He put the team on his back. There was one guy that got open every single time, and that was his senior wide receiver, Shane Knepp. You want to hear some impressive stats, boys?
Please do.
How about this? How about my guy Shane caught the football 9 times on 10 targets, 184 yards, 4 touchdowns, including a game winner, and they double-teamed him a bunch in the second half, and it didn't matter. Lester just kept looking for him, and Shane wasn't even open a couple of times. Probably not wise to throw it to him, but maybe it was, because he knew, Peyton Lester did, that his guy was going to go up and make the play, and it looks like you got something on the tip of your tongue, Travis.
Well, his ability to catch in traffic, especially on that last touchdown at the end of the game, he had 3-4 hands in his face.
Here it is.
To where you can't. He probably lost track of the ball for a little bit, but he's able to keep that focus and bring it in multiple times. He was able to do that, and that's the reason why East Knox is moving on, because just the focus of him on those pass plays, just crazy.
Yeah, he did it in a variety of different ways, too. I like, he scored on a slant earlier in the game. He goes deep sometimes. They'll hand it off to him. So Shane Knepp, he was a game changer for me, and I don't have any fancy name for my award. We'll just
the Brian Bonsai
Brian
Award.
Bonsai. That's right. Shane Knepp, it belongs to you, buddy. The first and probably the only. Enjoy it. All right, who else we got? G-Man. Give us who was your phenom, or I don't know, well, whatever crazy name you have for your award.
I don't have a name yet. Maybe I'll make one up by the time I'm done talking about it. But I've been sitting by Storm all year. He's got to see Shelby all year, so he's gone now for a couple of days. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a Shelby player in a loss. And I'm going with Blaine Bowman, a guy that cooked me earlier in the summer. So I know a thing or two about Blaine. But the main thing for Blaine, he had 16 catches. He had more than half of Blaine's completions. He had 16 of them. Marshall had 31 completions. More than half, 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he's been doing it all year long. And the thing about him, you can get it to him in space, and he can do the rest. You can throw it up top right here. It's just a race to the pylon. Who's going to get there first? It's going to be Blaine, and he's going to get the feed in. That might have been an NFL touchdown. So my pick is going to be Blaine Bowman. He's been doing it all year long. He's one of the best. I'm going to say the best wide receiver in the area, no doubt. And, of course, Andre Hill on the other side helping him with that. But man, he finds the window. Marshall gets it to him, and he does the rest, man. Big-time performance for Blaine Bowman. He's going to be my individual performer, I think, that did the best and had the best game.
It just kind of sunk in for me, G-Man. He had 16 catches in this game. My senior year of high school, where I was an all-conference player, too low level, but all-conference, I had 17 total catches. So Blaine did that in one night. Pretty impressive stuff. Yeah, hard not to give it up. Coach, you have him in class or anything? Like
I've had him in class. Great student. Yeah, and I think what you're seeing is he has the ability to recognize coverage. So he can tell you if it's one high, if it's two. He can tell you where the open spots are. He can get behind the backers. If it's man, he keeps running. He knows all of those things. He's a very high-level athlete. There's no doubt he can play college football. Someone asked, do you think he can play college football at the collegiate level? I'm like, yeah, does a one-legged duck swim in circles? You know what I mean? Like, of course.
I've never seen it, but I would have.
But I'm sitting there thinking, like, he is an absolute stud, So, yeah, I think that he's worthy of that. I agree with you. I think he and Andre are probably right up there. They'd probably, be able to compete for the best receiver in the area. But Blaine is just smooth. He is just really, really smooth.
Crafty.
And just has silky hands, man. There's no doubt. He's a little palm olive.
All right. Last but not least, we'll let Eric finish it up with the most impressive performance of the weekend. I believe you're going actually on the flip side of that game. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll coin mine Will's Weekly Warrior. How's that? Little alliteration there. My wife's an English teacher, so she'd enjoy that.
www.
That's right. We're going to go with Michael Daniels from Clyde. How could you not? This guy was a bowling ball, ran hard. He's not necessarily going to blow you away with speed, but he just runs really well behind his pads, absorbs contact as well. Probably need to throw that offensive line in there with him. 40 carries, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, nearly 7 yards a tote. Pretty darn good. I thought he had kind of the statement drive behind that line to open the third quarter. They came out and just went boom, 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 right down the field, and they were able to get in the end zone there. So I thought he played really, really well behind that offensive line, and that gives them a chance even moving forward to be successful next week against Van Wert. So, sometimes you run out of adjectives and superlatives and all those things when you're describing a player like him. But I even kind of like the hair. I mean, the locks flowing out from underneath the helmet. I guarantee.
They are.
Yeah, there it is, man. You think a little Troy Polamalu going on there, man. He could probably do some, shampoo commercials.
Maybe in due time, Eric. He would definitely fantastic. If not for him, Shelby's winning that football game.
I agree with you. I think he between and behind that offensive line, I think that was the difference. Because in the second half, they changed their formation. They went to an H-back and then had kind of a fullback, and they basically ran 3 plays. You were getting stretch, you were getting power, and then you were getting counter, and that's really all they needed in the second half to kind of keep the chains moving.
So there they are, our top performers of the weekend in a variety of different names and awards. So congratulations to all those individual athletes, and congratulations to Michael for that awesome flowing hair. Maybe
Beautiful
he will
hair.
get one of those shampoo commercials in the future. All right, let's start looking forward ahead now to the future. Our team's knocked out, at least locally, for Friday night. So we are going to have 3 football games coming up for you guys on Saturday. Let's start with the biggest one of them all. Over at Harding High School, we've got Cary Baby, the number 3 seed. They're going to be taking on the number 2 Crestview Cougars. And, G-Man, you saw this matchup last year in the postseason. Crestview, they were amped up for it. They had all the All-Ohioans on the team. And then they found out what Cary Baby was all about. They were tough.
They found out about what Cary Baby is the past few seasons. I mean, even back to when I was in high school, they blew our doors off. I mean, this Cary is such a good program.
It is.
It is going to be so tough for Crestview to do it, but man, I can't not pick them. I mean, I picked them all year long. I think they're going to get it done, and as Eric mentioned, I think it's going to be through the pass game. I don't think they're going to be able to run on that stout defensive front. So I think if they're going to get it done, it's going to be Owen Barker, Gabe Smedley, and Addison Raymer going over the top. They got to establish a run, though. You can't go away from it. So establish a run and then maybe do some play action off of it, hit some deep shots. But I'm going to take the Cougars in this one. It's going to be a tight game. Definitely going to be a tight game.
I feel like there's going to be very many points in this game, Hayden, or is this going to be kind of won by the defenses, the winner maybe in the low 20s?
Yeah, I think based off the performance last game, because Cary's last opponent was very respectable as well. Most of those points came in the fourth quarter, as you saw, and one of them kind of given to them right on the 1-yard line.
Sure.
So both teams not accustomed to shutting their opponents down and not giving up very many defensive points at all. So I think it could be just a 1 or 2 touchdown affair. But maybe, yeah, looking at a 14-21, something in that range to see who's going to be the winner.
Cary, shutouts in their 2 playoff games heading into week number 3. Travis, you feel like Crestview's going to be up for the challenge offensively to put some points on the board and maybe even early to kind of send a message to the Blue Devils like we are improved from a season ago?
Yeah, I think everybody knows what Connor Morse can do, but maybe they should, if they get the pass game going early on, open things up, flip the script instead of starting the run early to open up the pass. Maybe start the pass early, open up the run, then have Connor Morse go through it. But I think the main key is going to be turnovers, just like what we had for the Shelby game last week. Turnovers are going to determine this game. You saw it at the end of the Cary game. Pick 6 made it a 2-score game, really backed up their opponent in that one. So I think turnovers are going to be the big key, and maybe, flipping things around a little bit for Crestview, maybe get the pass game going early a little bit, and then get Connor Morse into it some more. What are your thoughts on that, Eric?
No, I agree with what everybody has said. I know that sounds like master of the obvious, but I just think it's going to be a defensive struggle. I really do. I think both of these teams, in my opinion, are the best 2. I might even say teams in the area. You got to throw Lucas and sprinkle a couple of other teams in there, but these 2 teams are really, really good. Like, these are really, really good football teams. Their weaknesses are only weaknesses because we don't know what they are because they haven't been exposed. You know what I mean? Like, but we do know that their defenses are lights out. I feel like Cary may not be as good as they were the last couple years now, meaning going from a 10 to a 9, if that makes sense. And I think Crestview has moved from an 8 to a 9 or a 10. I really, truly believe this is a talent-equated game. It's going to come down to, those little things, holdings, penalties, turnovers, but who's going to hit the big play? This is one of those ones like one big play can be the difference in the game. I really, really believe this in talent-equated games. There's 3 to 5 plays that are the difference in the game. We saw it. I think it happened in the Mansfield game with their inability to score on the offensive end. I think it happened on the Shelby game. We had a drop touchdown pass over there, a couple of defensive lapses, the one specifically before the half, and I think this is that type of game. Here's what I do like that Crestview brings to the table. They can throw the ball. I really do believe that could be the difference in the game. I like Kuhn throwing the ball. I think that they can have success doing that. And I actually agree with Travis. I think you may have to throw on first down. You know what I mean? Like get out, whatever your tendencies are, because both teams self-scout. Whatever your tendencies are, what's going to be the wrinkle this week? Because both defenses are really good. Because I will tell you this, that Cary defense is nasty. That is a nasty defense, and so is Crestview. So this is must-watch TV, man. Like, you've got a great game this week on the OH Report right here, baby, because that is I'm hoping we set records, man. Everybody tune into this game. And the Lucas game. I'll be doing the Lucas game. But I'm just telling you, man.
You'll probably be watching this one while calling the Lucas
game. I probably will. I'll be are you with us, Travis?
Yeah,
I'll be
Travis,
what's
the score
over there?
We'll try and set something up.
Yeah, we'll set something up. But I'm just this is a game we've been anticipating. I know G and Storm definitely have, and I know why they're picking Crestview, because they should. That's where they're from. I like Crestview because of the pass game. I think that might be the difference. And then here's the crazy thing. You win that one, now you've mentally tore down the St. Paul wall, and now you've gotten by this. And you know what? Now you're playing with house money, because you're probably playing Archibald for the regional championship. Why not? Why not this team? You're just catching lightning in a bottle and keep moving. So, but I will say this. Preparation this week, I guarantee both coaching staffs have their kids' full attention, because they realize this one is different than the last few that they've had.
Yeah, Blue Devils are so big up front, like Garrett said, and the running back, 270 pounds, Vallejo, closing in on 30 touchdowns on the season. So that they've got, a big pounder, bruiser guy, and we'll see if the Cougars are ready for it up front. I guarantee you can watch it live and free, though, right here on the OH Report at 7 o'clock. Matter of fact, you can watch all these games live and free at 7 o'clock on our YouTube channels and Facebook. Let's get to the next one. Let's talk about the Lucas Cubs, Eric. And, hey, dude, it just seems like this program is in a different stratosphere than everybody else, at least here in our area. I mean, there's good football teams that perennially, hey, they're getting into the playoffs, but Lucas is winning playoff games every single year. What have you seen from them over this last 8-9 year stretch under Scott Spittler that's allowed them to create some separation between a good program and they're starting to become like one of those legendary programs?
No, and that really does start from the top down. So with Coach Eisman, even from the athletic department to Coach Spittler, all the way down from his assistants to the players, it starts with the offense and defensive lines. Those are always consistent. You can have as much curtains as you want. I always call the skilled guys the curtain guys. That's what we celebrate. That's what we love, the quarterbacks and the running backs. The foundation of the home is the offense and defensive lines. That's a check for Lucas, period. Lucas dominates up front. Now, they do that just off of a Tuesday practice, because anybody who's ever played football will tell you, when it's cold out, you've been in school all day, everybody, walking outside and like just saying, okay, I'm going to hammer these guys, that doesn't always feel good. I guarantee at a Coach Spittler practice, a lot like Crestview, a lot like Cary, their heads hitting all day, every day, throughout the entire week. So they're prepared for it. So the style of play dictates a lot of physicality. And then it's plug and play behind it. So think about even at the quarterback position, like this year, Smolin. That dude, Smolin, he could throw a good ball. They could probably throw the ball more than they do and have success, because they have good wide receivers, and he's generally speaking on time and on target, but they don't have to. But it's always in the holster if they need it. So I think that they're more balanced and complete than people think. And then defensively, I feel like they fly to the football. They play 1 of 11. They're always gap responsible on defense. And this year, the difference, I thought last year when they played Shelby exposed what you would expect to see, a little bit of a difference of personnel on defense, meaning Shelby could throw the ball and it kind of hurt Lucas. This year, I think Lucas has actually really improved in that area. I think that they can play with anybody because they're not giving up the deep ball. They're not giving up the big play. They're very stout. They keep everything in front of them. And what you saw this week, that was straight domination. And now Dalton's good. When you look, Dalton, it's Dalton.
It's Dalton. Like you got Dalton in your mind. And maybe they do after.
Well, that Western Buckeye League is legit too. And so, when you start looking at that, they've got 2 losses, and between those 2 teams, they're 22-2. So that's going to be a formidable opponent. And, you look at that, you got St. Paul and JFK on the other side. So, but it's something that Lucas isn't. They're ready to go. Lucas will play St. Ignatius in a parking lot. I mean, I really believe that. Lucas is the only program I've ever seen that the size of the school doesn't matter. They literally will play football against anybody, anywhere. They might lose,
you're right,
but they don't apologize for it. I really believe that. And that comes from Coach Spittler down. Those kids will play with anybody, anywhere.
And Cubs fans, I mean, you see us every single week. We have their highlights right here on the OH Report. So we know about Lucas and everything they bring to the table. We'll dive a little bit more into Downton and let you know what they're about. Their 2 losses this year: undefeated Garaway. That was a game at home for Downton. They only lost 21-7, and then 14-7 the very next week. They lost to Ridgewood, who is 10-2 since then. 8 straight wins in the postseason. They've outscored their opponents 102-7. So, G-Man, do you feel like this is the first time in the postseason that Lucas is on like full alert and they need to be ready for a quality team?
I think they're full alert, as soon as those horns sounded last Saturday night. I mean, they're ready to go. They're like, well, let's go. Like, come down to Lucas, let's play. Like, they're ready to go. But I know they're studying, man. Coach Bittler, very good coach in this area. He's got them guys in the weight room, on the practice field, in the classroom, watching film, watching what all Dalton's about. They're going to be ready, man. It's a business trip as usual for Lucas. It's hard to pick against them, man. But Dalton, they're on a hot streak. They might be able to pull off the upset. We'll never know.
Yeah, playing in the WCAL, like Coach said, I mean, no, that's a no-joke league, but they did go undefeated through it. They were the conference champions. Hayden, you feel like this is Lucas's game to lose, or is Downton a good enough opponent that, that this could go either way? Is it a coin flip?
I think Downton's definitely good enough to beat a team like Lucas if they execute on all sides of the ball. I'm actually glad that Coach brought up, when I have gone back and watched some of Lucas' highlights, they can throw the ball this year, and yet they still have been able to not have to rely on that or go to it really at all. So I still think I favor Lucas in this matchup, but Downton's definitely a respectable and good enough opponent to come beat them. So also, this game obviously won't be in Lucas since we're on to regional sites, but I think both schools will have crowds that travel well, so it's going to be another phenomenal game.
Yeah, pointed out that this game is going to be on turf. I don't think Lucas cares. Like Coach said, they'll play in the parking lot. Doesn't matter, at the RBs, wherever. If you can line it up, they will find a place to play you. So we'll give you the last word, Travis. Number 1 seed, Lucas Cubs. They've been playing like it. Scott Spittler always seems to find a wrinkle or two. Something that you have not seen all season. They tend to roll out when it matters most at the big times. You think they'll do it again against Downton?
Just this is what they do, and this is what they're going to do. It's RPO. They're going to run people over. We've said this. It doesn't matter who they play. They'll go play the Pittsburgh Steelers. They'll go play the Cleveland Browns if they have to, and they will compete. But I said this last week. The Mapleton game might have had some people, scratching their heads, but remember the year they went to the state championship game.
I do.
Their opening round game went to overtime.
That's
they had
right.
to knock down a 2-point conversion attempt to get through there. Then it woke them up, and they went on. I believe that the same thing happened in the first week against Mapleton. They kind of got punched in the face. It woke them up. They dominated there. And then last week against a very good Malvern team, they just completely ran them out of Bob Wine Stadium and got the victory. They're going to be ready. They played on turf. They played on turf the last couple games in their state championship run. I think the last 3 or 4 games are on turf, so who cares? They're going to run the ball. They're going to run a ton of time off the clock. They win the toss. They're going to get the ball. They're going to run 8 minutes off the clock. They're going to get all the momentum, and then it's going to be their game to win.
So a lot of parallels between the 2019 club that went all the way to the state title game and this one. The Cubs, we know they're alive, they're awake, they're alert, they're enthusiastic, they're ready to play football, and they're going to be ready for Downton. You can watch that on the OH Report live and free at 7 o'clock on Saturday.
Eric will on the call.
All right, last game that we're going to have, I'm going to be on the call for this one. East Knox, baby, moving on. They've got a test, though. They're going to be taking on the number 1 seed, the undefeated Green Wave of Newark Catholic. Let's start with K-Mac. Trav, give me some thoughts about how you see the Bulldogs competing against the top of the top in their region.
I just think this team learned a lot last year in their run. They lost to a good Shady Side team that lost by a field goal to Newark Catholic, who went to a state semifinal. They ended up losing in that state semifinal, but this team, Newark Catholic, they're back. They know what to do. But East Knox last year was very beneficial in what Coach said in our playoff preview show when we released the brackets. Last year, they thought they were down. They didn't know what they had, and they still made a playoff run, and they still competed for a KMAC championship. This year, they came in with expectations. They got their KMAC championship, kind of a backdoor way in, but they earned it. They got a big win against Danville. In the Devil Dog game. They got a win against a very good Highland team that competed for a quarter and a half against the number 1 seed last week in their Division 4 game. But East Knox, they're peaking at the right time. They fell down early to the Tomcats and bounced back. And I think, they're ready.
Okay. So the Dogs, actually the Green Wave, I see, once beaten Green Wave, excuse me. I misspoke. They're not undefeated. Heath beat them in the second to last game of the regular season. So we know that they can be beaten, Eric.
Yeah, but once again, Heath's Division 4 as well, so that's a good-sized school. But here's the thing. I have a guy that I coached with for quite a while. His name's John Blaine. He's a proud Newark Catholic graduate. I mean, these people are – it's like he went to Notre Dame or something. You know what I mean? But, no, I think the secret sauce is the throwing game, is the pass game. I think that gives East Knox a very good chance. If they can continue to spread the ball around. Now, listen, good teams they've got a whole week to see what happened out there. The 100 and what were the numbers for the receiving?
For the receiver, 184 yards on 9 catches.
And 4 touchdowns.
Tutties.
Yeah, so that's going to be all over the scouting report for Newark Catholic. So now you need the second and third guy to help out, because if you're going to take an extra defender over, that's going to make you weak somewhere else. That's just how this game works. You know, there's only 11 on the field, so it's a numbers game. So as long as Newark kind of, once again, all you other guys can go out and catch balls and give yourself a chance, the QB is going to be on time and on target. You just got to make plays. So this is where now you find how complete is your receiving core and how well can you even establish a little bit of a running game. It's going to be difficult. Newark Catholic is really, really good. It's a prestigious program. They are, at this point, virtually every year. But East Knox has built up quite a reputation as well, where they should be able to compete in this game.
Yeah, Bulldogs now 6 straight winning seasons.
Yes.
They've gotten to the postseason each of the last 3. And offensively, I don't think any team that they come up against is going to be able to slow them down. We saw the
Agreed.
Tomcats last week.
Agreed.
They came into the game 4 shutouts in their last 5 games. East Knox put up over 30 points on them. So I think they're such a complete offense. That's not going to be the problem. Defensively, though, gentlemen, do you feel like they're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with the number 1 seed? I'm looking at their points totals throughout the year. They've only been held under 34 one time. This is a team that scores a lot.
Yeah, East Knox defense is going to step up if they don't win this game. They got to play better than they did last week against Trimble, letting up the 28 points. But as you mentioned, Brian, they've only scored under 30, one time, and that was against Division 4 Heath, as you mentioned. So I think if the winning recipe for East Knox is going to be to get it out to Shane Knepp and some of those Cole DeLauder, all those players out there, but it's going to be the defense. They got to. Newark Catholic has to score below. I mean, they got to score under 30, I think, if East Knox wants a chance to win. I think East Knox's offense will put up the points, but I think the defense and that crowd's going to have to influence that defense. That'll be a big win if East Knox will pick it up and limit that offense for Newark.
I would pretty much echo everything Garrett said, because the Newark's scoring is there, and we can see that with their season schedule, just the dominance they've had offensively. East Knox, like Garrett was saying too, the scoring's got to come, but I am a bit concerned. Shane Knepp's been the man for them in the playoffs so far. You take Shane Knepp out of the game for them the last 2 weeks, exception of the first round, I think they'd be in a little bit of trouble. So Cole DeLauder's going to need to really, really step things up. Peyton Lester's been holding it down. And guys like Shane Knepp, but they need an all-in, all-around good performance if they want to take care of the Green Wave.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that the first round, too. Shane Knepp, 7 touchdowns in 2 weeks, so he is kind of carrying the load a little bit on his shoulders, but you know what might be the big difference maker, even though it is on a neutral site? How about that cowbell, baby? How about East Knox and the fan base that they bring out there? Boy, whoo, it's a party every single time they step on the football field. I know it's outside of Chet Looney, but you guarantee, Howard, they're going to turn off the lights when they exit town. Everybody is going to be there from that small town, and if you do elect to stay home, you can watch that game live and free on the OH.Report. We're going to have that for you on YouTube, Channel 1, and on Facebook. Did I plug it enough, Eric?
I like it. No, I just I love the cowbell, too, man. I love it. Howard, Ohio, and Mississippi State. You know what I mean? That's where you're getting the cowbell. I love it.
All right. Appreciate you stopping by, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
Always
Good
a wealth
time.
of knowledge. The puns, too. A one-footed duck. I don't know where you come up with this stuff. That's
Yeah,
good
it was
stuff.
right there, man.
Just going in circles.
Round in circles.
All right, we're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, this was kind of the Friday Night Pigskin portion of the show. When we come back, all the other sports are still to follow here on the OH.Report Video Podcast.
Headquartered in Valley City, Ohio, MTD Products is a leader in the outdoor power equipment industry. We create products that help consumers build memories. Whether it's inspiring people to care for a public garden or enjoy their backyard with family and friends, community is at the heart of what we do at MTD Products. We are looking for people who want to be a part of our future and who are dedicated to cutting-edge product innovation and outstanding customer service. We'll provide you with the necessary tools for success in your career at MTD and help inspire people to care for and enjoy the outdoors around the world.
Well, if you've been watching our coverage on the OH.Report over the last 2 weeks, no doubt you have been seeing some Eagles flying high. How dominant has this Monroeville volleyball team been on their way to a regional championship? That's right, they're moving on to the Nutter Butter Stadium. I think it's just Nutter Stadium. And our guys that have been covering them, Travis Berardi, Hayden Gray, are both going to be there. Fill me in, guys. What makes this Eagles team so special? How have they been able to be this dominant on their way to the state Final Four?
Defense. Coach Kendra Snook, defensive-minded coach. This is a team, we've seen in the broadcast that you and I have been on even this year for volleyball that, you might have two or three players with maybe close to 100 digs. Well, that goes on for, seven.
Whew.
7 players with over 100 digs total. 3 of them with over 300 digs, 3 more with over 200 digs. So they like to play defense, and that helps out with the offensive attack from Grayson Yoder, who is first-team All-Ohioan that came out today.
Deserved.
Maddie Daniel, honorable mention, All-Ohioan as well.
Deserved.
Yoder, she's just the all-time single-season kills leader at Monroeville, 525. She's actually a state record holder now. She's working her way up the ranks. Maddie Daniel as well is approaching that former record with 466 kills.
That's a combined 1,000 kills between two people.
Yeah. Their total 1,253 kills as a team, also a state record for a season. They keep moving up there. But the great thing about it is, too, because everybody's able to play that defense, they don't have to come out. You see some, kills leaders on teams, they'll play the front line, they'll come out, take a break, come back into serve. These two stay on the court the whole time. One starts on the front, one starts on the back, so no matter where they are on the court, you have somebody that's going to throw it right back down your throat offensively. And that's what just makes this Monroeville squad such a good team this year, is they have such good balance, and then they will dive on the floor at any time defensively.
Awesome fan base, too. You see that they have been filling out these arenas no matter where they go. The fans are there cheering them on, bringing them a little bit of swag up there, the seventh man, if you will, for volleyball. So let's talk now about who they're going to be facing in the state Final Four, and what's your scouting report so far on St. Henry, Hayden? The Eagles, they've only lost one set so far in the entire tournament. What are they going to be going up against here?
Well, I mean, they're going to be going up against a perennial powerhouse. They've had their share of super strong opponents, though, this far this postseason. So, again, they have a big uphill challenge ahead. Obviously, when you get to this point in the season, everyone you're facing is going to be diving into these under 5 losses or fewer, and not dropping a lot of sets throughout the year, and have their share of opponents who have a large amount of kills, large amount of digs, blocks, everything. So they've got a big challenge ahead. Travis, do you want to add anything about their opponent?
They have a couple offensive players with over 250 kills. They don't have anything like what Monroeville has. They have 7 players with over 100 digs. They play defense well. They have a couple offensive leaders, but they don't have quite the attack that Monroeville has. Monroeville, this is their 4th time going to a state semifinal. They lost the last 3. I think this might be the year that they can finally break through and get to that state championship match on Saturday, because they have the complete package. Now, like I said, St. Henry, they've played here before. They have the pieces to do it, but I don't think they can completely compare to what Monroeville has.
And we're not able to bring you guys the broadcast live due to OHSAA rules, but on Thursday we will have the entire broadcast of the game. We're going to put it up basically like right after it ends. So I would say probably the match is at 4. Is that right?
Match is at 4, so 6:30, 7 o'clock at the latest we'll have it going. I don't know. We'll see. Just depends on how fast the match goes.
So Eagle Nation, if you can't make it out to the Nutter Center, you know where to find it, right here on the OH Report.
Why not just add Maddie Daniels? That's an absolute robbery. The honorable mention. That's unbelievable. She should be.
And also shout out to Hannah Lyons. She is 2nd team All-Ohioan. She's approaching 1,000 assists. And she's one of the other ones with more than 300 digs. So 3 All-Ohioans on this state-bound squad.
So they're loaded with talent, in other words. Understood. Well, another team that's got a whole bunch of talent, but I don't really know that we knew about some of this talent. It's kind of been unlocked throughout the season, is another team who is heading to the state Final Four, that being the Lexington boys soccer team. Congratulations to them. They knocked off Shawnee 3-2 in overtime to win their regional championship. On a game winner, Luke Roberts headed it in OT off of a throw-in, kind of a la like that district championship that they won here in Mansfield against Madison a couple of years ago when they made that run to the state Final Four, which is where the Minutemen are again. They're going to have to play Bay, though, G-Man, kind of their arch nemesis. Matter of fact, you could say it is their arch nemesis, certainly to Peter Tim when he first was getting the Minutemen flowing into the postseason action. They just kept losing to Bay. They finally got over that hump in 2019. Weren't able to beat them during the regular season, though, this year. What do you think about round 2 between these two powerhouses?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Brian, they lost to Bay earlier this season, 1-0 in favor of Bay. And we really started out earlier in the year. It was really about Lexington's defense, but really coming along later in the season and in the tournament, it's been their offense. They beat Columbia and Tiffin 15-0. They beat Clyde 13-0. Beat Huron 7-1. Beat Ontario 6-3. Beat Bishop Watterson 1-0, and then had the overtime win against Shawnee 3-2. So I think it's going to be the offense for Lexington that gets it done. If they want to pick up a big win against Bay, one of their rivals, they scored 17 goals and only allowed 6 here in postseason play. Lex is hot right now, and I'm taking the hot hand. I'm going with the Lexington Minutemen to pick up the big win.
Ooh, I like it, and I'm sure that the Lex faithful will all like that, the Purple Haze. And the play of Depperschmidt and Potter, those two guys up top, they play so well with one another. And what I like, too, is that neither of them, even though they're great goal scorers, each of them up over 20, I think Gage closing in on about 40 for the season. He's having a dynamic season. But the way that they find one another, G-Man, on the offensive end, they each, I think, are approaching 20 assists too. So when you have a connection like that, it doesn't matter what sport it is, when you can just feel your other teammate on the field, I mean, it's a game changer. And for Lexington, it has been that, scoring all these goals here of late. Those two definitely have been putting it in the back.
Yeah, they really were trying to find themselves early in the year. They couldn't get it done. But later in the season, they've got together and they figured it out. Gage Potter, one of the dynamic scorers in the area, of course, Alex Depperschmidt too. And then you pair that with a great goalkeeper like Garrett Weaver. You get a goal, you can really relax, play defense, and really pick up a big win. I think if they get maybe 1 or 2 goals, that defense, they can relax, sit down, and pick up a big win.
Yeah, would you believe me if I told you the Minutemen scored 4 goals in their first 5 matches this year? And they're going to be playing for basically to get into the state championship level. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy how far they've come, Travis. What do you think about what Peter Tim's been able to do with this team?
It's just amazing what he's been able to do. Like we said before our regional game that we did against Bishop Watterson, this team, they're All-American graduates last year. What we thought was their best chance at a state championship, lost in overtime in a regional last year. And what did they do? They use that as motivation. They get the pieces, they rebuild themselves in the summer. You know, they took a couple, I wouldn't say tough lumps because they were ties, but they got going. And I said that Shawnee victory earlier on in the year, game number 3, where they won 1-0, that really gave them, a lot of motivation, saying, hey, we can do this. We just beat one of the best teams in state. We got revenge on the team that knocked us out last year. I think we have the ability to run the table. Their one loss was to Bay, 1-0, but a couple years ago in a regional semifinal at Worcester, we saw that they could knock off the team that was better than them in Bay, and they made a run to the state semifinal there. I think this squad, if they play their own game, they don't let the name across the front of the kit get into their head, they will have a very good shot at playing for a state championship.
I don't think they're intimidated anymore by Bay because they were able to beat them, and they compete with them now during the regular season. And I believe they drew with them last year in a low-scoring game, and I know that they lost this year. But the fact that now consistently they're seeing them, it used to be we had to get to the round of regionals before we'd get to see Bay, and then it didn't go so well for Lexington for a couple of years. But the fact that they were able to get over that hurdle, I think that maybe it won't cloud them so much mentally, and I do like their chances going into this game. And nobody, I think, really saw this team blossoming into what they've become. So you have to give so much credit to the players for putting in the work during the offseason and for keeping that chip right there on their shoulder to overcome what people are saying about you in the media. Lexington is going to be a rebuilding year, man. Big ups to all these players for Lexington for becoming what they have this year.
It's funny, at all these teams, not only in just soccer, we thought about Crestview. You lost a lot of all Ohioans last year. What are you going to do? Look where they're at right now. They're in a regional semifinal. Lexington, another squad. Colonel Crawford, who lost that tough one on Saturday. Sure. We thought they were going to drop some people off. It's just all these schools that, under the radar, just staying under the radar until the exact moment that they need to show themselves, and they're still playing.
They are still playing, and we're going to have that for you live and free Wednesday. The Minutemen taking on Bay. What an outstanding name that's going to be. They changed the start time to 7:15 p.m., so we'll probably kick off our pregame around 7. That's when you can catch us. Myself and Jesse Ryder will be on the call. Travis will be sideline reporting with all the great interviews and stuff. All right, guys, before we close up the show, a couple of players that we used to cover on the OH.Report doing some pretty phenomenal things right now in girls soccer at the next level. I just wanted to point out, how about our girl Taylor Huff from Madison leading the Tennessee Lady Vols to an SEC championship yesterday? Congratulations to her. And then Lacey Bethay of the Lady Lex from Lexington, she was named the MAC Outstanding Player of the Tournament. 2 girls from Mansfield, Ohio on the biggest stages showing out. Let's go.
It's How about
Come
that?
on.
How about everybody in North Central Ohio? All the athletes, not only in high school, but moving on and showing off. great job by everybody.
Yeah,
Just
we're
great
all
job.
we're
Great
all
job.
very impressed. So we keep eyes on you guys once you get on to the next level as well. So maybe we'll get T Huff, maybe Lacey on a conversation at some point after their seasons end. And what's great for them is that their seasons aren't ending maybe anytime soon. Now starting to get into the big tournament. So really awesome to see. All right, guys, we've been talking for way too long, taking up way too much of your time. Make sure that you check out all of our live streams. We're going to have them for you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We don't know yet. We're working on maybe some potential live stream games. If nothing else, we'll have some highlights for you. And then we've got the jam-packed menu on Saturday. Certainly we'll have 3 football games. We may also have a state championship volleyball game and a state championship soccer game. So a lot to digest here from the OH Report. We're glad that we can put food in your mouths every single week. But for me, I got to go do that for myself right now. A little bit hungry.
I got a
I'm outta
football
here.
game I got to watch here in a little bit, so let's go.